Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you all? Have you noticed a change? There's a change. You won't notice it. It's behind the scenes. We actually have changed our studio. We went from Restream, which, to back to StreamYard. If you were with us during the POEC, we were using StreamYard during that entire thing. And we had very little problems with the connection, and we actually had some more features. So we've moved back to that. So it was quite the weekend, quite the weekend for us. Why? Because I had to restream every single episode so that we had it in the new studio so we can do things like make a bunch of clips for you. So yeah, I had to binge watch myself. I don't know how you guys do it the first time around, but yeah, I had to do it. But the good news was it allowed us to make a bunch of clips. And you see the new graphics? Good morning, Clay. Good morning, buddy. Welcome back. You're on a different shift now. We missed you. We noticed you were gone. So much so that you actually knew that we missed you. So you let me know that you had a different shift. So that was really cool of you, bud. Thank you. So good morning. Good morning, Motown. And did you see that? My hands were here, but yet the chat changed. We have a chat button pusher now. We have a chat button pusher. Let's see if you can figure out who it is. 3 letters. Rhymes with Madge. We can figure that one out. Good morning, Motown. Another wonderful weekend of messages with you. Thank you very much for your support on Twitter, your retweeting, and all that kind of stuff. Really, really appreciate it. And I'm glad we had a chance to kind of, really chat about something nice and deep. That was great. So thank you very much, Motown, for sharing that with me and giving me a chance to respond to you. Azario. Something's in the mail, right, Azario? It hasn't arrived yet, but I'm excited to find out what it is. What is it? Prairie, where have you been? It's the first question I have for you. Are you all good? Where have you been? Missed you a lot. We didn't have the sunflower in the morning, so missed you a lot. So I hope everything's good with you. Nice to see you, Prairie. And I think there's one more. Somebody missed their own message. Good morning. I'll just go ahead and get that in there. So good morning to you too, Patch. Thanks for saying hi to Clay. I'm sure he had a good weekend. He had a different shift last week. He was explaining to me. So welcome back, Clay. Well, folks, today I'm going to kind of move my chat with you to the end because we got Ian. He's here now, and he does have to leave at 7 our time. So we're going to go ahead and get into the interview with him early. And then we'll get back to the chat and have a good time with you guys after that. So without further ado, and we don't have a drum roll audio yet, but let's go ahead and add Ian. Hi, Ian. How you doing? There we go. I'm good. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
There's that coffee. There we go. And then Clay's got his coffee too.
I tried to give up coffee for a year, and I made it to April 24th.
So what was this about coffee?
I tried to give up coffee for a year.
Oh, why?
I was drinking like a pot a day, and just thought, I was a little too dependent on it, and I didn't like that. But yeah, I made it like almost 5 months, so I think that was pretty good.
That's not bad. Did you have any withdrawal? Like seriously, did you have any withdrawal from it?
Not really. Coffee was it was pretty easy to kick, I would say. But you definitely craved it. Like I definitely wanted it many times.
And then now you kind of just got back into like moderation's the key here, right? That
was it. Yeah. Now I can drink like a normal amount and not be all like completely jittery. So it's a lot healthier. It's a healthier way to live, that's for sure.
And did your taste change? Did your taste buds change at all? Because I found that when we had the lockdown and we couldn't do McDonald's or anything like that, the first time I tasted McDonald's again, it was a whole new experience. Yeah, I was like, what's in this thing? But was that the same thing for you the next time you had coffee? Was it bitter or something different?
Oh yeah, it tasted amazing. After 5 months, yeah, it tasted incredible. And my teeth definitely looked more white, more vibrant, I would say.
Okay. Well, I used to have the habit of using a straw with my coffee, and people made fun of me for like years. They're like, "Why are you using a straw?" I'm like, "Because I got to get it past the teeth." I'm trying to get it. It's
not right, though. You just can't. You can't.
But I'm now back to normal, and yeah, I'm gonna have to address that issue you just brought up because that will happen. Absolutely. So, how was your weekend? You went to the cabin. You went away.
Yeah, my wife and I had an Airbnb credit because we canceled our wedding 3 times, and then we're like, the hell with it because of COVID, because of all this
Oh,
stuff.
postponed, not canceled, right?
Well, oh yeah, we're still married. We got married in the
Okay.
backyard with 4 other people. Just got so fed up with everyone and their demands, and we didn't want a single person wearing a mask. You know, that's
Well,
probably.
that's interesting. So they showed up and it said mask, turn left, brought him to the event, and mask, turn right, and brought it back to a parking lot. So is that how you handled that?
Well, sorry. Well, we didn't even. We just decided to have it with like my best friend, her best friend, and our child, and that was it. And it was pretty nice. Actually, I'm pretty happy that we did it that way. Saved a lot of money.
Absolutely.
But I just didn't. Yeah, everyone was just being such a Debbie Downer, and it got to be so absurd that there's certain people where it's like, I just don't even care to have a wedding with you. It got to that point where it's just kind of like, even if we could have a wedding, it's just, you've ruined it. You've ruined it. Too many Debbie Downers in Canada. So
No, and I get it, and that is sad because I even just lost a friend over the weekend over this whole division that's been created, and it's a friend from like 20 years. And all that happened there was he made a violent comment towards Trump, and I'm like, why do you hate him? And that was the end of that conversation. Um, all right, but yeah, it's still happening, right? It's still happening. And you're not wrong. Having a small wedding is a good idea, and also having it on a Thursday is a great idea. Uh, that's what we did. We had it on a Thursday, which meant the limo, the DJ, everything was available. Nobody was booked, and everybody had their reduced pricing because it's not the Friday, Saturday. So
that's
yeah,
genius.
well, it just worked out that way. That wasn't our goal. It was just we got married on our 3rd-year anniversary date, and that was a Thursday. And a lot of our guests were from out of town, so they were flying anyways. So Thursday or Friday didn't change anything to them
Because they were taking so much time off, eh?
Yeah, they were going to come in anyway, so just come in a day earlier, have it, and then actually a lot of people enjoyed it because that meant their Friday was free. They can do stuff on Saturday when they were in town, so that was cool. It worked out great. But congrats.
What was the Trump comment?
About we're talking about media, and I said, look, I'm doing my podcast, I'm doing news, because they said I didn't see your podcast, I don't like politics, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm more than politics, I'm also some news. I'm better than mainstream news. And then they go, yeah, the mainstream news, I like to watch it, and it makes me want to choke Trump. I'm like, why? Like, he's not even your guy. Like, I genuinely just wanted to know why this friend from 20 years, who was a very calm person, very loving, very open-minded, anti-establishment, was so bought into this agenda, this narrative. So I really wanted to just ask him so I can have this conversation. And that was the end of the conversation. No response.
It's something about his vibrations that it's very strange how people react to him. Because I'm with you. I know a bunch of people who are not passionate about anything political or celebrity or whatnot, and they despise him. And yeah, it's very strange.
Well, I think what they think is it's how everybody feels, because that's what he actually made in the comment. Like everybody else, I want to choke him. Like, no, that's not everybody else at all. And look, I'm not a pro-Trump. I'm not going down there rooting for him and knocking on doors for him. I'm just anti-violence against people that don't deserve it. I don't understand why there's this hate on him so much.
My theory is that he embodies someone that got their girlfriend in high school, and he's for the wrong reasons, you know. So he's not the best looking guy, and he's boastful, and he's and so he can get women without not solely on looks, and I think that's frustrates some people. I think that maybe that's my theory, is just that he got their girl. That seems to be it with a lot of people.
And in this case, the girl is the White House, so he actually won the election.
yeah, exactly.
Right? And they didn't like that at all.
But it's just his personality is that he obviously was able to attract women. So I think people get jealous over that.
And Pat is making a good point here. I think because mainstream bombarded viewers with 24/7 Trump for so long, it also created a negative reaction. right? Like they were doing Russia, 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 and then when it actually came out that there was no Russia, you didn't hear them do that. Okay, so there's a lot of people who actually believe he's a liar, that he was trying to take down the U.S. and he tried to actually have a insurrection. Some people believe that. So maybe they're just responding to that. But what I don't understand for these people is why the hate. Like, why is it being driven by hate on your side? It's okay to dislike somebody. I dislike Justin, but I certainly don't hate him. Like, he has his days that he's got to get through too. He's a human. So I have empathy for that, but I can certainly point to his policies, and I can point to the things that he does and say, okay, we need to fix that. That one's damaging. This one's not so bad. But this one's horrible. But you don't have to hate him. Like, if you hate him, then how do you even get past the whole conversation? Maybe there is some compromise. Maybe there is some negotiation. How do you even do that if you're going in with hate? You can go in with dislike, but hate?
And Justin has done, objectively said and done 10 times worse things than what Trump has said. 10 times.
Sure, sure.
And the policies have been 10 times more dangerous. So again, that's where, if you just looked at objectively, that's where I'm saying it's more just a personality thing. And it seems to be, he's confident, and people don't like that. Why is he confident? He didn't go to Harvard. Why is he so confident? He's not that good looking. And why is he doing all these things and getting away with all, getting away, like getting elected and doing all these great things, but he doesn't deserve it. He's, so, and if you talk about the lying, look at Biden lying with such great detail. Like that video from when he ran the first time, I think it was in the 80s or.
There's a bunch. Yeah, there's a bunch.
Where he's saying he graduated top of his class, and they weren't just, Trump can be boastful, but the lies aren't to the detail. Like those are the lies of a psychopath, when someone lies.
Oh, for sure.
With concrete, details and times and places that are completely made up.
For example, Biden recently said, I was born in the hospital 2 weeks after my grandfather died in it. His grandfather died 2 years in a different state.
Yeah.
like this is checkable. We could look this stuff up. Why say this? Because you're right. That's a sociopath. They don't even care that you can validate it. They just want to say it.
And he's not, Trump would at least say, I was the smartest one in my class. Doesn't mean he graduated the top of his class or whatnot, but he'd be boastful and he'd stretch the truth. Whereas Biden's, they're like verifiable lies that just, not to say Trump didn't lie, but just Biden seems to be able to do it just in this insane way, that with great detail.
Yeah, it's creative, much like ChatGPT. If you ever use ChatGPT, it's very creative. It will just create things for you.
I haven't used it yet. I haven't, but one day.
Yeah, I know it does that. Like, you got to be careful. One of the first things I did with ChatGPT is I started asking it legal stuff, paralegal. I'm doing that work. And it spit out, it's like, here's a case that helps you, and here's another case that helps you, and here's the breakdown of that case, and this is all perfect. I'm like, yay, this is wonderful. I have to do like no work anymore, except none of those cases existed. They're completely fabricated. There's no links to them. They never happened. In fact, it's even given me case headers that exist, but the content was nothing compared to what it said it was. So ChatGPT is a very good creative machine, because it's predicting the words. It's not really researching them. They've improved that, but there's been lawyers already who just copied and pasted from ChatGPT, submitted it, and then the judge would actually look up the case law that they're talking about. It doesn't exist. And then the lawyer gets into a lot of trouble because you're submitting false information to the court. And you can't blame your tools. It's you who submit it. So yeah, so if you ever get into it, it's good for software development, but don't use it for facts and knowledge. It's not
who owns it? Is it owned by ChatGPT? Is that a standalone company?
OpenAI.
Okay.
Yeah, OpenAI owns it. That was started by Elon, and he left, and it was continued by a bunch of other people and went commercial. So it used to be like the open source. We're going to open AI for everybody, hence the name. Mm-hmm. And Elon was part of that. And then the board said, no, we got to make some money. We can make a lot of money with this. Elon said, don't do that, because when you commercialize this, the motive changes. And they said, sorry, money looks too good. He said, okay, I'm gone. And then like 2 years later, with Microsoft's help, because Microsoft stepped in with $1 billion, there we go. We got ChatGPT now.
So Microsoft owns it?
No, they're just a major partner.
Okay. No. And then do you pay a licensing fee to use it?
Well, you will. Right now, I don't. And I also have access to, as a Microsoft partner. I'm a developer, so I write software. And one of my partnerships is with Microsoft, and I get early access to the stuff. But no, you can use it for free right now. It's in a public preview. It's limited, but you can certainly use it right now.
Interesting. Okay, so it's free for a limited time type thing.
No, it's free for a limited number of questions. So you can do 25 in 3 hours.
And then you have to pay going, like that's your...
No, it doesn't even let you pay. No, it just cuts you off until the time's gone, and then you come back and ask more. It's in a preview right now. It's in like a beta right now.
Okay.
Yeah. But the goal is it will be for profit for commerce. So you will be paying, I think, something like a fraction of a penny per question. And that's how that will work.
And so... Are you afraid? so you use some you haven't boycotted Microsoft yet, I guess.
Well, no, you can't boycott air and electricity. Right? Like you really can't. You'd be shooting yourself in the foot and going back in your development. I'm a software developer. I work on the cloud. This is how I make my income. Doesn't mean I am a big tech guru that loves what they're doing. I'm pretty upset and annoyed. But it also means for a long time, like for 20 years, I've been screaming these messages. You guys, big tech can see everything. The cloud is a collection of all your data. I know because I'm there. I'm in there. I can see what they're doing. But Microsoft is the better if you can really rank them when it comes to your privacy and security. They're one of the better ones, but none of them are great. None of them.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all the way I look at the boycotts too is even if Microsoft, if their revenue goes down or doesn't increase exponentially, they're upset. So you don't have to outright boycott them if you just use them a little less or don't pay. That still makes a difference as well, because you're right. Some things I agree with you. It becomes so cumbersome to boycott because it's like vaccine passports. Every business pretty much in Ontario enforced them. You can't just boycott everything.
Right. Right. And frankly, we only have 2 feet, so you can only shoot one of them. You can't shoot them both. So what are you going to do? Like, I'm not joking. Like, I'm rural. I don't have a physical connection to anything. So am I going to boycott Starlink because they have satellites and rockets? Like, ooh, come on. No, there's got to be a balance. Okay. There's a balance in between. And also, I think where the challenge is are you influenced by big tech? Does big tech make you do things? And if that's the case, oh, you should be watching out for that. But if you are in big tech and you can see it from the inside and it doesn't influence you and you see it for what it is, a collection of people trying to do a bunch of things and not this mysterious thing that I don't understand, well, then you can actually get in there. And this is much like me going into the parliament. Okay. I'm not a fan of these parties. I'm not a fan of who's there right now. I'm not even a fan of the parliamentary process. There's a lot of work there too. But yet I have to get into it in order to do something about it. So I could either be on the outside yelling, I hate government, you all suck, and maybe one day you'll smarten up, or you bite the bullet, you put on the tie, and you get in there and do something about it. Very similar in my mind when it comes to how I work with big tech. And that's kind of the kind of guy I am. I'm not afraid of the lion's den. I'm not afraid of the evil. I'll get in there. But, you know, how are we going to feed my children, and how are we going to progress the messaging? Because I have a lot of advantages by being technically inclined and continuing with that skill set, which then translates into things like broadcast into 7 different platforms today. You know, it's my skills.
That's impressive. That's very impressive.
But now we're here for you. Okay. I'm here all the time, and these people know quite a bit about me, but we're here for you because you have a very interesting story. And I read your bio. It wasn't very long, but I read your bio.
Short and sweet, you know. I keep my nose down and make burgers. That's it. So,
but believe it or not, there was a lot of information in that bio, and that bio says you're the type of guy who will stand up and do hard things. Running for the PPC isn't a very easy thing to do. Running at all isn't a very easy thing to do because you're definitely choosing from a private life to a public life. running in the GTA. Wow, what a place to be. Like everything about even the fact that you had a PPC candidate hat on is a very big tell on who you are. And then also your decision to not run again is another big tell. So I think your bio was complete. It was very informative, and it gave me everything I was looking for today. So I do appreciate that effort.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
So, but we do have to condense this episode because you do have to take off early. Well, yes. Not early. It's the time that you needed to take off.
I have to work. I have to pay the bills. So yeah.
Right. No problem. With big tech too?
No.
Yeah. But you get it. Like, who do you work for?
So I'm a small business owner in the restaurant industry. And it's funny you say running in the GTA. I'm sure your listeners or viewers will appreciate this, but the people who, I definitely was harassed a few times where I was like run out of buildings where people would just not, if I went to one door and tried to knock on another door, some guy would just be yelling in my ear. Mm-hmm. But I have a good friend in Guelph, and he came to Toronto to door knock with me, and he was all nervous wearing a PPC shirt. He's like, man, we're going to get heckled. We're going to get this. We're going to get that. And then we're at a crosswalk, and a TTC streetcar comes right in front of us, stops, points at us, thumbs up, and keeps going. And I would say the coolest part about the PPC was that, the people who would give you thumbs up or honk or wave, or it was a UPS driver, a TTC bus driver,
a worker.
Yeah, just regular workers, not the communists who just lays about on the street or hang around parks, who don't really do anything. It was the workers that really appreciated the PPC and got it. Yeah. And I was actually surprised. I would say surprised / disappointed is the vast majority of people just don't care. They didn't even know about the PPC. Yeah. So yes, online, like Liberty Village was where I was living, and
I know Liberty Village. I used to work there. It's a Moat.
Oh no way! Where? Sorry.
In the Moat, the buildings are Moat. So those old converted factories or whatever, they're now all tech. Okay. Right across the street from Two Cows. I used to work in that building there.
Oh wow, man, small world.
The Liberty Village. That's where I learned sushi when I was young. I started off my career in Toronto in the Liberty Village area.
Making great sushi. Area.
No, eating sushi. I was a software developer. I got exposed to it for the first time when I worked there, and now I can't stop. I eat it all.
Or I was going to say, is sushi some platform now?
No, that's right. Yeah, back then it's like SQL and and sushi means something. No, but Liberty Village is a good area. King Street and Bathurst, I believe it was. Yeah, nice area.
It was. I don't know when you moved out, but
about 15 years ago, so it was maybe.
They had a tent. They built a respite center, which Toronto has, I'd say maybe half a dozen of these now, and they're quite the size of a big barn. And it's just a no questions asked place for drug addicts to go and do drugs and sleep and eat. It's kind of like a homeless shelter, but with no services and nothing to pressure them to get clean or to clean themselves up, and just. Sure. And anyway, outside of that, there was probably, I don't want to exaggerate, but realistically 100 tents, and they all got gas generators and propane tanks, and a couple of them blew up, and it would look like Baghdad some of it some nights, because it was just insane. Yeah, so the whole area is I think it's going to be a slum. And eventually it'll turn, because they built really, really, really tiny apartments, and it was the trendy place to be. But now the liberal ideas have gotten through. So there's lots of drug addicts. You can't really escape it because there's no parks really. There's so many condos and anyway. So, but I posted, there's this Liberty Village Facebook group with about 25,000 members. And I saw the NDP guy, he posted, hey, I'm running for the NDP. And he got some slack, say no to communism and all that stuff. Maybe 40 comments and 40 likes. And the liberal person posted, same thing. The conservative didn't post that they were running, but I posted that I was running. And just a very generic thing. My name is Ian. I'm running. If anybody wants to volunteer or help out, please private message me. And there were hundreds and hundreds of comments just attacking me relentless, just nonstop. It was really kind of like the same 10 or 20 people just over and over again, but it was just that was a big gut check. Where I was like, oh man, I've stepped in it now. But
no, it sucks.
Once it really does shock you the first time you get ratioed or attacked online, and really venomous. You know, when people are really attacking you, just every single thing about you, calling you every name they can possibly think of, attacking your character, calling you a Nazi. It really takes you aback, but you get used to it.
Sure. Yeah, and that certainly happened to me too. As I came out as at the time I was more aligned with the PPC because they were the party that kind of recruited me at the time, but I went independent. And I got to tell you, and I'm being honest here because this is what we do on the show. The left, the way they attack, it's immature. I mean, you can kind of get over that. It's like name calling, blah blah blah. But when we attack ourselves, oh my gosh, we're trying to hurt because no, I'm not joking. The allegations that came from my side against me were, you're a globalist, you're in with Schwab, you are an agent. Like, these are things that can be very dangerous for somebody. I'm not, but this was the first attacks I started to go under, that I'm not who I say I am. And that's my side saying that because they think, hey, I'm saying the right things, I must be a programmer or something. That wasn't something I was prepared for. I'm prepared for the name calling and the mud stuff because you see that and you can expect that. But from my own side to turn on me and not to trust me, and then kind of get, I would say it's dangerous if you're trying to say somebody's a globalist, you're sure of it, they're an agent, and you're pointing to them. That's not a good idea because other people might believe you and then do something about that.
Yes, for sure. And yeah, I think on any side, you're right. Like Danielle's getting it now with her post about Pride Month, and she's getting it worse, I think, than the NDP, than all the NDPers from our side. I went online this morning, and it's not pretty, but it's valid. Sometimes it's valid, and it's not. These aren't ad hominem. So, for example, like when I said I was running, these people knew nothing about me. And they didn't know, I didn't put my bio, I didn't put anything like that. And the PPC, just go on our platform. It's not like, people will say we're white supremacists or Nazis or whatnot, but go read the platform and there's nothing that would indicate, there's no actual facts to support anything that these people were saying. Whereas Danielle, when she posted that Pride thing, there's facts to support that there's an agenda at play, and she's supporting that agenda. And in a lot of people's minds, I think that there's some evil within that agenda. I'll say it's an evil agenda, but I think it's justified in saying that there's some evil within that agenda. So,
and I'm going to give her, because this is a tough one. You were a politician, and so you understand this. This is a tough one. So, okay, so she kind of got a couple roads here. Either she shuts the door completely on Pride and doesn't even talk about it, so just ignore the subject. She'll get called on that, but yeah, she does that. Or she posts a message where she's showing the other side that you can talk to me. I'm reasonable. And if there's some room here to have a conversation, I'm the kind of person that you can talk to. Versus, I don't even acknowledge your existence. I think there's a difference between not accepting a side and not agreeing with their agenda and their mentality, but still keep the door open so you can talk to them, versus just completely shutting it off. Maybe that might be her approach here, because there's no political gain for her to come out and support that side. It really hurts her.
Yes.
But is she trying to keep a door open for conversations with this group? Because if there's a way to talk to this group and get them to kind of come down on, like, say, the child indoctrination side of things, maybe there's some room to converse this issue. Could that be what she's trying to do there? As a politician, you kind of need to do that, don't you?
I think she is. I don't want to say pandering. She could be pandering. So who knows?
Well, pandering would be she comes out with blue hair and she's carrying the flag. That would be pandering. She's not doing that.
Okay, my thing that she's pandering is she put in, anytime someone puts in the 2SL, it's like the longer the acronym, they've either are really trying to apologize for something that they've said and pander. That's to me when they're pandering. When they put in the more letters on the acronym, the more they're pandering. So I think that, and I just, she could have ignored it. I would have just ignored it. These people go away when you ignore them. They feed off the energy, and I just think there was no. What was the movement? The gay move, the sexual revolution again movement about? It was you used to be arrested if you were in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. If you were gay, you'd be arrested. So it was the government that was persecuting these people. Now the government's out of the way, and now they're getting back into it, but on the other side.
Right.
So I think that what does everyone want? Just get the government. At the end of the day, even if you gave most people a choice who aren't an authoritarian psychopath like some of these people are, but yeah, just get out of my way. I just want to be able to be who I want to be with and not be arrested. And what goes on in my bedroom is none of the government's, provided that it's not with a minor or any of that stuff. It's none of the government's business, which I can be fine with that. So I think that's the problem, is that there was nothing to gain, and it detracts from what we're trying to do, which is get the government the hell out of our way. And that's kind of why people voted for her, I imagine, too. So
there could be a possibility, because she did mention that she was okay with ESG scores. So the environmental ESG, a social and governance score. And this is a corporate social credit score system from the globalist. So maybe there's a chance that I'm just putting this out there, that her score would be affected, because that is one of the variables for the score. And for some reason, Alberta has this score, and for some reason it matters to her. And maybe that's kind of the root of some of this, because for some reason, investment in Alberta, interest, payments, all these other things that are already tied up because of Kenny. Maybe the fallout from that is so bad that she kind of has to maintain it until she can get it out. I'm not sure, because she mentioned ESG scores and she was a fan of those when Kenny brought them in. So that scared me. And now for her to, I'm going to say kowtow, maybe not pander, but certainly kowtow to the group, might be because that's going to affect that. I would love to interview her. I've got lots of people who are trying to help me interview her, people that know her and that kind of stuff. She hasn't responded, because these are exactly the kind of questions I'm going to ask her. Why are you talking about ESG, and why is WEF still on the Alberta Health Services website? These are two things you said you were against, but yet you're still, you're supporting them.
That's an interesting premise. But look at in Ontario, I know that Doug Ford, I'm almost positive, hasn't marched in any Pride Parade, which is a huge deal in Ontario and Toronto. Okay. And he always goes to he just says, hey, I go to the cottage that weekend. And so there's a lot. Another excuse she could have used is that how many days are there for, and months and weeks and for this group, and she gets hammered every time. Like, they just made up a new one, I de Hobbit, International Day of Anti-Hate of Trans. And have you not seen this? This is no. I'm sure you saw it. Too much work. The acronym was so absurd, but she got killed or crushed for not kowtowing and saying Happy International Day of Trans Hate and homophobia hate and anti-trans hate and anti-homo. So I just think, yeah, I just don't get it. And that's an interesting premise that you said, though. That's
It would be tough, because as a politician yourself too, like, I have a stance on certain issues, but it's very divisive, very, very divisive. And then when you bring it up, it's incredible how your supporters just go. And if your goal is to get enough support that you can get elected in and then start having impact on policy and other things, which is what the job is, what do you do? Like, if you come out and say, hey, look, I believe that the sun gods are real and this is my religion, you're done. What is a politician to do? I
think, hey, we want to get out of people's business. I'm not here to talk about sexuality. If a group is being persecuted and your rights are being infringed upon, that's the one thing about COVID was they had at the end of the day, they had one job. It's so much of politicians, they talk about the economy and financials, and which shouldn't, again, that should be they've gotten way too into that realm of government, right? Of taking way too much of our money and then figuring out how to spend it and interest rates and all that stuff. But their one job should really just be protecting your rights and fighting for your rights and making sure that your rights are being are respected. And the COVID was that one thing where it's like they had one job and one time to do that job, and they failed miserably. So,
and there's something that happened here in Alberta with Kenny. So Kenny on Monday, the days may be different, but let's just say on Monday, he said, no masks here. We're done with this. Over. Wednesday, he stops talking about it. And then Friday, he's bringing them back. Something happened. Something happened. Somebody pulled him into a room. There was a conversation. It might have taken a couple days to work out how he has to backtrack now. But something happened there. And that ended up being the end of his career, because we didn't like that. You don't backpedal on that issue, especially when you're the one who's standing up on behalf of many, many Canadians, and then you back down. That's kind of like saying all these other Canadians should also back down. So something happened there. And this might be also what happened to Danielle. And it could be related to this ESG that they both support. Again, I'm speculating from the outside. We're looking from the outside. But there's very big disconnect from her campaigning for the leadership messaging, and then after she got in, something happened. Something changed. In my opinion.
There was an MPP, I can't remember his name here, Rick Nichols. He spoke out against the vaccine, or he said he wasn't going to get vaccinated. And he did a great interview with Bright Light News and said that he got a call from someone. They have a PR firm, and in the PC, Ontario PCs have a PR firm. And he said he got a call from a guy at that firm that he wouldn't name, and just tore a strip off him like no one has ever before. And not a normal conversation about this is a thing with your doctor or you're an idiot, you know, a different. So yeah, very well someone could have gone to her. Who knows? Who knows? Because there's a big agenda at play and there's lots of money involved and power. So yeah, and she has shown courage. For sure, she has shown courage. So that's why I don't want to just crack on her, because she's smart, she's capable, and she has shown courage. And no one's going to be perfect. It seems like this was very not necessary and out of character.
Yeah, but when if the media starts saying, "Look at how great things Danielle's doing," then we know something happened. Something bad happened, because that doesn't happen, right? And we're seeing that right now with Pierre. Right now, he's the media darling when he's against Maxime in Manitoba. But any other subject, any other story, any other topic, he's definitely the devil. So it's interesting when you see the media itself start rooting behind somebody that they hate because they hate someone even more. And when I say hate, I'm using that word because they use that word. But what they really are is fear. So they fear these people. Because it's a threat to possibly their institution, what they do, how they make their living, whatever. But there's a threat there. So have you been paying attention to Maxime's June 19th? And what do you think about it? Do you think he's made the right choice to kind of challenge in this by-election? Because it's a make or break. If he loses, that's going to be a bad loss to have. But if he wins, it's going to be a great win to have. So there's a calculated risk going on here. So do you think they made the right choice to do that?
So since I got, I didn't get humbled, but truth be told, I thought I would do way better in the election.
Okay, well, let's actually talk about that. You had a liberal stronghold that you're in, right?
But I campaigned on. I did kind of like a soft entry, so I was campaigning on inflation way before anyone was talking about inflation, the deficit, and cost of living, because it's extremely expensive to live in Toronto. Yeah. And that's all because of low interest rates for 10 years. We've created this massive housing bubble. So that's what I campaigned on. And then obviously I would want to weave in the vaccine, because that was the real reason why I was running as well. Those were kind of the two reasons why I was running. But wait, where was I going with that? What was the question? You were humbled. Oh yeah. So I thought I would do much, much better. And I thought Maxine was going to do much better. So it is, I don't want to say the system is corrupt, but there's some corruption there, and I think that I just don't think it's a make or break, because I think it's still a risk. He's not from that area. It's definitely worth a shot, and I'm praying that he does get in. But if he doesn't win, then you just keep working. You just have to keep working. And
for sure,
a consistent message. And in fact, the more he loses and stays with it and slowly, because in my opinion, the PPC is a true, genuine grassroots movement, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. It might not just explode overnight and get, majority in the House of Commons or even 10 seats, but it's a slow, I mean, it's not that slow because we are one of the fastest growing, or the fastest.
Correct.
Yeah. So
5 years, 5%, that's big.
But I think we're having to changing people's minds is the slow process. And this is not something that I think that you can, it's not, I'm trying to think of another issue where people could kind of flip and go one way. Like in Quebec, when they flipped on the block and voted NDP, there weren't these really key issues that people have those mental hurdles. It was just they got sick of the block and they wanted to teach them a lesson. And so whereas there's a lot more at stake nowadays.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think there's this weird opportunity here with Manitoba and Calgary. And here it is. It's not going to change the PM, this by-election. Okay. We are locked in until 2025. So even if it turns purple and not blue, it's not going to be split the vote, liberal rule, all that kind of crap. In this particular election, this particular one, that's actually off the table because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's vacant right now. It doesn't matter. One more vote this way or that way won't change a darn thing in this current House. So, Canada, let's see what Max can do. Is he all talk or not? Let's send him in for this 2-year half term. Let's see what he can do. And if he is just not the guy for the job, then vote him out 2025 when the actual election matters. So then we'll go back blue or something. But if he goes in there and he's really doing some good work and ruffling feathers and exposing things, and even just one guy or maybe two if Kelly from Calgary gets in, if that happens, well, then it's going to be a big wave. It's going to be 2025. There's going to be a lot from the West that will pick up purple because now we can see a couple of things. One, they can win. You can actually win a seat. That will be a big thing to know. Two, they're not just full of hot air. They're in there ruffling feathers and exposing things and causing conversations to happen. So why not give the PPC the balance of power instead of NDP? Give it to the PPC and see what they do with it in 2025. I think this is what the experiment could be. If Max gets in, it's not a real loss to Canada either way. But if he doesn't do a good job, then we'll know. If he does do a good job, that might be a good thing for Canada.
I think that the problem still is that there's a lot of conservatives who are like, I'm reasonable and I got I got vaccinated and who cares? The vaccine issue doesn't bother certain people as much. Like, look at Jean Charest. He got votes for the conservative leadership. So there's clearly quite a few conservatives who are, I don't like Trudeau and what he's doing, but I want someone who's just 10% not as bad as Trudeau, or not just. And so I think that that's what people, in my opinion, the Conservative Party and the PPC are, yes, there's some people who kind of overlap like anything else, but they're very, very different parties. And I think there's a lot of just old stock conservatives who just didn't see the big deal about getting vaccinated and the issue there, and they don't see a big deal with carbon. They still believe in the climate change scam, and they're like, okay, I think climate change is a problem. I just think the Liberals are too extreme with climate change, so I wanted to just scale it back. But I still want, because Danielle Smith was saying how that was so disappointing too, and she was saying how she was criticizing Notley for the goal of 2035 to be carbon neutral, and she says, well, I think she said she had to do it by 2050, when you need someone saying, why the hell do we need to be carbon neutral? What is this? There's no science behind that. There's no justification for it. It's just a made up target of just signaling out one trace gas to say this is all our problems, and it makes no sense why we would have to be carbon neutral, or even to worry about it that much. So, I think that there's just a lot of people who haven't just seen the agenda and the globalism and how bad it can get.
Yeah, and I think those are what we would maybe refer to as the tolerant conservatives, the ones that can take a little bit of change and a little bit of things they don't like, and they can tolerate it. I want to highlight that those are the scariest ones, because those are the ones that convince the other conservatives to just go along with it, just go ahead with it. And I want to highlight that 30, 40 years ago, when the gay and lesbian movement was really pushing, and you even had conservatives saying, hey, it's their bedroom, let them do whatever they want. There was a lot of people saying, hey, they're going to come for the children next. And they're like, no, that won't happen. They're not that unreasonable.
100, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
You got to be careful if you're the tolerant conservative, because you've been tolerant for so long that we now have indoctrination in the schools and other places. And why? Well, because we were tolerant back then, and we slowly allowed this slippery slope to continue to slide. That is the cause of tolerant conservatives. Because if they weren't, then we'd at least be able to push back harder on issues like that. And this we saw with the vaccine. A lot of them were employers, a lot of them were employees. And both of those groups were attacked very heavily about having to get the vaccine. If you're an employer, you would have challenges because the government would make it difficult for you. If you're an employee, well, you have challenges because your employer is making it difficult for you. And that's a traditionally conservative position, business owner. So seeing all these businesses jump on board and say, yeah, we're going to be vaccinated. Oh, it was like, wow, you're being tolerant to the government because they will hurt you. And that's not the conservative strength that I'm looking for. You should be able to collectively say, no, look, here are our morals, and here's our ethics, and here's where we draw the line, and we're sticking to them. Mm-hmm. Even if it seems like it really won't hurt people, we still need to stick to them, because that slippery slope will lead to, well, we're firing nurses in the middle of a pandemic when we need them, but because they won't take an experimental anything. That's how this slippery slope ends up working. And we do that in Alberta, of all places, right? So we have a very conservative light. Like, it's almost like we have a chunk of conservatives that have kid gloves on, and they want to be kid gloved. They're not quite lefty because they still have hard work, they still take care of their family and that kind of stuff. But they're certainly doing things like, oh, what's the harm? It's just a vaccine. Or, oh, what's the harm? It's their private bedroom. Well, the harm is we actually have people that are injured. Some people are sterile. And there's a lot more indoctrination and targeting of our youth. Those are big issues now because we had that slippery slope for too long. So I agree with you. You're 100% right. And that could be what Danielle's running into here, is a bunch of these conservatives that are tolerating some of this stuff. Now, do you think they're just uneducated, or do you think they're just focused about the bubble around them and that's about it?
Oh, yeah, they're uneducated, or they don't know the scope of the problem. And I think, too, they want to – politics sucks to a degree. Like, you know, I like a bit of it. I like to play in the mud, you know. I like to have fun and debate people. But it can be a very horrible thing. And so, yeah. I don't know. It's tough.
It's tough.
Yeah. I think that they want to just shut their brain off. They want to, hey, I can tolerate, just like you said, I can tolerate this. I'm just going to vote conservative because I think PPC, who knows what they're capable of, or if I look at Artur Pawlowski and his party, what he's capable of. So it's like, I just want to, hey, let them do this for a bit, and I just want to shut my brain off, and conservatives won, and Pierre's got my back, and I can just not worry about anything. When I think that we're in this problem because too many people shut their brain off. Like I was saying, when I was going around door knocking, it wasn't that people were passionate against the PPC or for the Liberals. It's literally that they just don't care. They just did not care. And again, it's shocking to those of us who see what's going on, because it's how do you get someone to care after they've shut down your business, destroyed the economy, destroyed society, and it still didn't make them care. That's a scary thing.
Yeah, it's tough because it's like a one-on-one conversation, because we don't have access to mass media, and we don't have access to mass education. We don't really have a way to reach them. So it's like a one-on-one type of thing. So good luck with that. And then second, well, we may not be good debaters. We may not be good educators. We may be having a hard time actually getting our message out as well, because what can happen quickly is frustration and anger boils up quickly. So if we can learn how to be calm, collective, debate, have a good, interesting conversations. I have noticed that that door does open and it does work a bit. And this is just from my Twitter. You know, I'm right off the bat, somebody comes in and says, "Hey, you're dead wrong. There's no way of changing my opinion." 8 tweets later, they're like, "Oh, I didn't actually know about that." 8 more tweets later, it's like, "Oh, well, that's how that worked." And then at the end, it's like, "Okay, well, I may not have changed my mind, but I'm certainly open to learning more." And that happens on a one-on-one basis, though. And we got to change what 10 million minds. So I think what and we haven't been traditionally very good at culture, right? Our side hasn't been taken over Hollywood or the media, so we're not very good at that. So I think we have to learn. We have to learn how to get out there and have more conversations and have a lot less. Look, Alex Jones has his place, and even Crowder has his place, but a lot less of this yelling at you because you're all idiots type of mentality. Because that's not going to work, because it won't work our side either, right? If someone says you're a bunch of idiots, I'm going to yell at the information at you. We'd be like, sure. So I think we have to find a way to keep that communication open. And that could be what Danielle's doing with that pride thing, because she will be able to sit down with groups now on that side, whereas she wouldn't have. They would have just boycotted her. There's no way they're even going to sit down. So maybe that could be what is kind of going on there on that level. I do want to point out something, though, that was a big surprise to me and likely a big surprise to Danielle. And we all should pay attention to this. She got her hand slapped. Okay. She had a conflict of interest investigation, and they came out and said, "You're liable. You did the wrong thing." I want to highlight what it is she did. She called a legal professional and asked, "What are the options here, and what can happen to this guy?" What's wrong with that? I'm going to backtrack this to the very beginning, to the phone call. Why can't the premier ask anybody anything? Why can't she call someone up and say, "Hey, can you get this guy off?" And that not be a bad thing? Like, the answer can be, "No, we can't. That's not the way the law works." "Oh, okay. Thanks for letting me know." But yet that now becomes something gets investigated. There's a group within the Alberta government that said, "Okay, we decided that that was a conflict of interest. And right before the election, we're going to let everybody know." Who are these people? And Danielle had her hand slapped. And that means even our premier can be guided within the government that she works in. And she will kowtow to that, because those are the kind of things that she can't really fight. Like, how do you have a fight with the conflict of interest investigation? Like, the way I see it is, I don't think she ever should have been investigated. There's nothing wrong with the premier looking into something. If what she did was illegal, yes. If what she was doing was inquiring about what could be done and she was told nothing could be done, I have no problem with that. I have a problem with the fact that the system slapped her hand, though, and then released that information right before the election. That tells me there's a swamp here in Alberta for sure.
These judges and the laws make no sense anymore. Like, I don't know if they did before, but it was the same with, remember that judge? Someone in Alberta, sorry, not in Alberta, someone in Manitoba hired a private investigator to follow a judge to see if he was following the COVID protocols. I think.
Okay. I didn't hear about that.
But. And they got, and maybe I'm not remembering the story exactly, but they got in trouble for
stalking.
Whereas, as far as I'm concerned, you can hire a private investigator to investigate someone, and why? Like, it just seems like, or they could investigate you. They could throw you in jail. They could say, "Hey, you're not following the protocols. Why can't you?" And I don't think the person was. I don't think it was stalking. I don't think they were harassing. I don't think.
Oh, but that's what they'll use.
Right. And it's the same with. They'll say, "Oh, this labor law is XYZ," but also you can fire a pregnant woman for not taking an experimental drug. On what planet is that? Can you say both those things and say that the system is functioning and makes sense? So I think it has. I think you're right. It has to be a cultural shift where people just say, enough people are like, we're not even. It's like Jessica Yaniv in BC, the man who wanted to have his genitals waxed.
Right.
Yeah. So that should have not gotten anywhere. It should have just been like, no, we're not. This is not what the BC human rights. Culturally, enough people should have just said, we're not going to hear it. We have limited resources and time, and yes, like that we have to see everything and everyone. But no, if some crazy person, just who he is a crazy person, came and wanted to say, I want to take so and so because they won't shower me with take so and so to the Human Rights Tribunal because they won't shower me with sprinkles every day or do something. It's like, no, that doesn't make any sense, and we're not going to do it. But somehow these leftist crazy people, they just keep getting into the mainstream and pushing their ideas like it's mainstream when it's not.
It's not a somehow. We know exactly how. It's through threat. It's two threats. The threat of we're going to cancel you, and the threat of I'm going to hurt myself and blame you. Those are the two threats that this particular group uses a lot. And it works. It works. It makes people who normally would zigzag, because when you're going to attack them personally, it's not about professionally, but personally, that's scary to a lot of people. And then also the idea that, well, am I responsible for this person who hurts themselves because I didn't agree with them? Those are two really scary things. And this is the I'm going to hold my breath until I turn it blue mentality that for some reason made its way into the adult side of things, and we allow it. Like when you have a kid that says, I want to do something, you say no, and then they hold their breath. Well, they're not going to really die, but they believe that if they threaten you with harm on themselves, you're going to give them what they want. That's the same mentality that we're seeing here today. And unfortunately, not only is it not true, conservatism is not the reason why children are hurting themselves. It's because they're being told that they're going to hurt themselves if they don't get their way. And that's their side telling them, you're going to hurt yourself if they don't love you or accept you. If your family doesn't accept you, 42% of you hurt yourself, you hurt yourself, you hurt yourself. And then when they're in this position where they're like, okay, well, it didn't work. My mom said she doesn't like me. Well, my other option is to do what they say I'm going to do. That's why the rate is so high, not because their mom didn't love them the way they are. What do you think about that kind of assessment?
So there's a hospital in Toronto called the KMH. It's called KMH, but it's not spelled with a K. It's a mental health hospital. CAM. I can't remember exactly the acronym. And they have
Association of Mental Health Professionals or something like that.
Yeah, and it's but it's a full-on hospital, and they have an ad going, a multi-million-dollar ad about how there's a global mental health crisis. Okay. A global mental. So what, you just polled the entire globe and got their mental, like, it's mental health is the most nebulous term. Like, oh, my mental health, everyone, it's like climate change, where it's like, yeah, duh, the climate changes. It's like, yeah, someday you don't feel happy. Oh, you got mental health problems, or there's a problem with your mental health. So I think, yeah, they're pushing an agenda. It's an industry. The government takes too much of your money, and they don't know what to spend it on. So people who have no real degree or whatnot, but they maybe took a psychology degree in university, they lobby to get some of that money to study people's mental health, or to push an agenda, or to say, yeah, it really irks me how they keep shoving it down people's throats. Or they'll say 1 in 2 women are the victims of abuse. Again, what is abuse? What you're really, that to me is, you just want to hate men, or push this thing that men are toxic masculinity. Because yes, abuse could be anything, and it doesn't mean we need a government program because a man and a woman had a fight, or a man and a, right? Like, abuse, there's a big difference between rape and an argument. So yeah.
Now, the way to control a population has always been through fear. Okay, so back when we were just in our huts and stuff, the fear was the tribe next door coming to take our stuff. So even if you didn't like the leader, maybe the leader was a crass person, you didn't like him, but they were able to protect you from the other tribe, the fear of the tribe coming would be enough for you to get behind that leader and go ahead and work with them and do that. And then it turned into the fear of other states, okay? Because these were kind of real. At that time, it was real. The tribe could come and take your stuff. The other country could come and try and take over your country. And then as the world was settling, and where borders are kind of settling, those were kind of going away. So then the fear became terrorism, this thing that can come to us from anywhere. Well, that started to be licked, and people aren't falling for that anymore. Then the fear became the bug, something that's floating around in the air. Be afraid of that. Now that's not working as well. So now the fear is yourself. You now need to be scared of yourself, your mental health, how that's working. We're going to tell you that, oh, because for 3 years all this happened, you should be a mental health basket case now. And because of that, we're going to have this global mental health awareness stuff. And now let's all be very, very afraid of our own brain and mental health. Like, I think they're at the end of the rope of things to try and make us scared of. But this is a very dangerous one because they have an app on a government level that's going to swipe this way if you're feeling that way, swipe that way. And that app is going to take you to maids. It's going to take you to a maid's appointment and approval. You're going to even get approval from maids through the app, and you just make your appointment. I don't know if you're aware of this, but Trudeau dropped the 10-day waiting period for maids. There was a 10-day waiting period where you said, okay, I want this. All the procedures happened. People said, okay, now in 10 days, if you still feel this way. But now they dropped that. You can do it the same day. So they don't even give you the buyer's remorse grace period anymore, which is something we really should have kept in place because you can change your mind. And that's kind of the whole point. But they took away the 10-day grace period. They waived it. Why?
To what you're saying, though, if you, it says a lot about society that maids even exist, or that you allow it to that you promote it.
That's a tolerant conservatives. Tolerant conservatives created that one because we said, oh, they're in pain and suffering, end of life. Let's go ahead and do that. Well, that turned into, by the way, mature minors, which are minors that get to make the decision supported by the state. It's now turning into mental health and dementia. That's not pain related. That's caregiver pain. So our slippery slope went from, of course, we want to do the humanitarian thing. This person is just excruciating, terminally ill pain, all the way down to you're having a bad week and you're a teenager. That's enough. That's because of the compassionate or tolerant conservatives that allowed that to happen.
The maddening thing too is I actually door knocked a nurse from KMH, and she had quit because they had 2 COVID deaths, quote unquote COVID deaths, and one was an 86-year-old man with dementia, and one was a 45-year-old homeless man who was addicted, to everything under the sun and treating his body.
And that's sad.
Absolutely. But she quit, and it's just so laughable that they call themselves a mental health hospital. They care about mental health. Meanwhile, how much mental, like, first of all, you enable people. That's which is not good for people's mental health. And then how many nurses did you fire or let quit because you kept up this charade? You're meant to, again, the one time we need you is to say, hey, this is overblown and it's destroying, this COVID thing is destroying people's mental health. We need to open up businesses. We need to open up schools. And instead, no, they said COVID's way, way worse than it takes precedent over people's mental health. So yeah.
No, and if we really did care about mental health, we would bring back the institutions, not electric shock therapy, like all the reasons why we close the institutions down. I'm not talking about bringing back some of that stuff. We're in a different time now. But we really, really stopped for 30 years or so taking mental health very seriously. And now anything could be called mental health. We also we've diluted that term too. And some of this scares me because, look, you can have a bad day, it's raining out, things went wrong. But that certainly isn't a path to maids.
I think that the government should have nothing to do with mental health. They should never even say mental health. And if you have a problem, if you think you have a problem with your mental health or you're not doing well mentally, I think that that's more a spiritual thing. And it could be fitness, it could be a lot of things, but really you should you need spiritual guidance. It can't be the government telling you. It's no coincidence that the government got into the mental health industry and in mental health problems, but now we have a global mental health crisis. So I just think that you should go to church, or you should go to a gym, or you need to find something that to help you mentally, that
right.
Or not even necessarily you should go to a mosque or anywhere that's going to kind of feed your soul, and you will get mental health help at any of those institutions.
I agree with you that it should not be government level, but it can't be left as an individual level, because mental health is the one that's hard for individuals to self-assess and understand. But it definitely has to be at the community or family level, because that's where the care would come from. Somebody with mental health may not even know they have it. So that's why you need family and community to help them there, but not government. I think you're absolutely right. I think
and I'm not saying,
is not
like,
where it belongs.
Yeah, if you have, I'm saying it's overdiagnosed. I'm talking about
Me too. ADHD. Every kid has it now, and gender ideology that used to be, or gender confusion used to be around 2 or 5%. Now it's at 20. No, that's not real mental health. That's government, culture, and influence that's pushing some of that stuff.
I'm just, yeah, it's overdiagnosed. So for the 95% of people who have, just say, my mental health isn't what it should be. Okay, try going to the gym. Have you tried going to the gym? Have you tried going to church? Have you tried joining a run club? Have you tried, have you tried?
And that's your community. So that's a doctor near you. That's your community, not your government. And what the government is doing is they are actually pulling back on the services for mental health. So they used to have a program where, yeah, if you needed it, go talk. It would be subsidized. Now you get 6 visits. So you got to be fixed in 6 visits, or you have a financial burden now.
I don't think the doctor is the way to go either, because the doctor, he'll ask you a few questions and then we know what he's going to do. He's going to prescribe you a pill.
Yeah. But with my own experience, that's something you can avoid, and then you can actually get into therapy. If you go down the road of chemicals and quick solution, then you're also in that fast food mentality, and you have a fast food care on your mental health. So don't be surprised if it doesn't work for you. But there's certainly a lot more. There's therapy, there's conversations, there's connecting to community, hitting the church, hitting the gym, just raking the leaves in your yard. These are all things that will help. So I agree with you. If your plan is pharma, that's not going to help your mental health. If your plan is community and, talk to somebody about what you're going through, then I think you definitely have a path for recovery at that front. Now, just with that said, there are some extreme cases. There are certainly going to be some people that would need pharma in certain capacities and for certain reasons. My mother was certainly one of those, but not everybody. Okay, not everybody. But now we're in the age where if you just have a bad day, the media is telling you it's other people's fault because they're not accepting you. So you have to hate society and hit this app, and then we're going to get you the drugs. And if you really need it, we'll get you the maid service as well. That's where I think we're really, really messing this one up.
I think that it just, unfortunately, the government doesn't have a moral authority, and it doesn't have a moral. It's
not supposed to, by the way. It's not supposed to by design.
So it's just there to enforce the law, and the. So, for example, in Utah, I know the welfare or what's the other term for welfare is distributed by the church. So there's a moral. If you want help, there has to be kind of like a moral assessment and a moral teaching that comes with that help. There's no free lunch. It's not just, oh, you need help. Here you go. No questions asked. And let's look at this from a moral framework, why you need the help and what's going on, and how do we help you help yourself in the future so that it doesn't happen again.
For example, there are people with BMWs that go to the food bank because it's free.
Yep.
That sucks.
If you are this is a hot button issue, but if you're an addict and the government is just enabling you and is giving you kits and helping you get drugs easier, that's not really that doesn't make any logical sense to me. That's not help, in my opinion. You're just enabling. And you don't want to judge people, but you need to accurately assess what is wrong and what's the problem. And so if you had a friend who was doing too much drugs, you wouldn't just say, oh, here you go, just keep piling it on. You'd try and help them stop it.
And you actually mentioned you wouldn't judge them. Why not? That sounds like Sesame Street. That sounds like Sesame Street training. Like, we shouldn't judge people. Look at the grouch. Don't judge him. Why not? That's kind of what we're missing. We're missing that part. We should be judging them and then assisting them based on that judgment. It's actually, that's what we're missing. We're told, don't judge people, just accept. Why not? We should be actually assessing it. No,
good point. Yeah, I didn't mean not judge them as in be mean about it. But you're not.
You're right. Like, the way you used it was more culturally, like, let's be accepting almost. But I think that's what we got programmed with Sesame Street. They told us to just accept everybody, even the bad people, or even the ones with trouble or issues. And then, yeah, and then we are where we are now, where everything is acceptable. Nobody has privacy, and our children's sexuality is not a taboo anymore. And that, I don't know how we reverse all that, but we definitely need to find a way to get rid of certain pieces of this issue. We're past your time, so I hope that you're not going to get yourself in trouble. But you did say you're self-employed, so if you want, I can speak to your boss and see if you can get a little more time with us. But I did want to talk to you a bit about why you're not running again, if you have time for that.
Yeah, why don't we wrap it up with that? And
okay,
yeah,
thank you.
So I was when I first decided I was going to run, I was at a protest in Toronto at Queen's Park. And I talked to another candidate that I love, that I had followed her on Twitter for quite a while. And I was a big fan of hers, and she wasn't running. I'm like, how are you not running? You know, you're great, and let's do this. And I was all pumped up and everything. And then after running, I'm like, okay, I kind of get it. And I think that it takes a lot out of you. It's a thankless job. And I'm still relatively young, where I think I'll do it later. And I have 2 kids, another one on the way. And I kind of need to set myself up a bit more, where if I do run and lose again, or I can, go at it full steam ahead. And if I lose, then my whole life isn't shattered, or I'm not screwing myself financially, because there is definitely a financial burden to running. If you want, I took 2 months off, and I spent quite a bit of my own money. So yeah, we need more people we're kind of on the front lines, where the cannon fodder, where you just need to next man up, try it. It's an amazing experience. I met tons of people, made really great connections, and I just think, yeah, that's why I'm not running. I will run again, I think.
Okay.
Just maybe not in the next election.
Okay, so maybe you're just going to entice us to a decision later. But I guess my question is, you're not a never run again. You may run again, so you didn't like close that door. Because my next question was there something that may have caused you not to want to run again? And if so, was that the PPC party itself? Because what I want to find out is, as a candidate, because I also was a candidate waiting, and I also left, but I didn't go through an election with them. So I was curious from you. You did go through an election with them. It was a tough battle. You were humbled by the results. There's definitely very little support in the GTA for anything that means hard work. So you found that out. But if, let's say, Max gets in, and Max does some good things for a couple of years, PPC support grows tremendously over the next couple of years before the next election, and then things are looking rosier, would you reconsider? If your family situation was a little bit more accommodating to running?
Yeah, even if none of those things happen, it's more just, I think I'd rather wait until my kids are out of the house or grown up a bit more. Because, yeah, it's such a sacrifice. But the PPC, I had 0 complaints about the PPC. What I loved about them is it was autonomous. So it kind of was like starting your own business. And no one came to say, you can say this, or you can say that, or this is our our stance on XYZ. It was really free flowing. So it's kind of just a loose framework. But I appreciate, I think too, ideally we should get out of the parties as much as possible. And it would be great if we had independents win. Like, I really respect you for running as an independent. And it would be way more ideal to have independents, because the parties is where where the brain shut off comes in. So in my riding, the guy who won was kicked out of the Liberals.
Yeah,
and he still won. Kevin Vaughn, and there's no. It still said Liberal on the ballot. It was dirty pool. They should have changed the ballot, because there's no way he would have won unless it said Liberal beside his name.
So he was kicked out before the election. They still kept the ballot as him, so he got all the red votes.
And the ballot said Liberal beside his name. They couldn't do anything about it, which makes no. Again, if this was a private business, and in the real world, it'd be like, no, we can't do this. We got to change the ballot to reflect that he's not with the party anymore. But what was I going to say about that?
But he still won, even though he was kicked out.
We were the only party with scrutineers. which we call them election representatives. I had about 7 at the different places. And one of my good friends, he's really techie like you, and he's in telecom, and he's all about security. And he was really interested to know how, you know, the security behind how everything worked. And he said our elections were really great and open and shut. And there's a paper ballot. He saw them count it many times. He could just literally hear people in line saying, who should I vote for, NDP or Liberal? And that's where that's the problem that we're having. The election is stolen before we get to the ballot box through the media. Trudeau paying off all the media. And so I think that's what I'm more worried about. Now, with that aside, we still had an issue with early voting. That was a scam because I really had 20 days to get to people because of early voting. I started to door knock a ton of people who had already voted. So 20 days to door knock an area of 100,000 people. So it was the early voting and then the mail-in voting. I had a bunch of people that were in Florida who wanted to vote for me or who did vote for me, but they said that it was a complete crap show.
Yeah, cluster blank. Yeah,
with the mail-in voting, and it's so. Who trusts the mail these days that you're going to mail this and it's going to get accurately sent to the right spot and counted? And so I think that there was a bunch of issues with the election, but the literally counting of the ballots was not one of them.
And I just want to put that out there for anybody listening. Digital voting or blockchain voting or anything along those lines, you're going to start hearing those terms come up more and more and more. You're going to start seeing more and more people push that and get behind it on all sides because they say that we can't trust the system anymore. The warning I'm telling you right now, that's worse. Blockchain voting is far, far, far worse than what we have right now. And that's why they're going to bring that in. Because blockchain voting, yeah, you might be able to see your vote on the blockchain. And yeah, you might be able to see that, yeah, I voted that way. How do you know about any of the other ones? You don't have a clue. There will be a button that says populate blockchain, and the results are easily set. So that is something we should always be fighting against: digital voting, blockchain voting. And I'm a nerd, right? I was around. I know how blockchain works. And I can tell you that what they're going to tell you is a whole bunch of hogwash. They just want more control over the outcome of that election.
Okay, I'll ask you a quick question then.
Sure.
What do you think of? I almost think that your voting it should be public and written and signed. I'm Ian Roden. Sign my name. I voted for this person, and so that I don't know. I almost think that it's built into the system to keep it not transparent, so that there can be shenanigans.
If that was the way voting worked, Hillary would have been president. Because there was a lot of people that did a secret vote. They voted Trump because they can't publicly say that.
But then we're in a crisis of cowardice, and then they get.
You're right. You're not wrong.
Yeah,
you're not wrong. And when you see a subway full of people standing around while one person's being assaulted, you're not wrong. We're definitely in a society of cowards. It's called the bystander effect, and that happens even on the political level. You're not wrong. Here's the most controversial thing I might say in a long time. But the true solution to this is there should be an intelligence test for voting. Not who you're voting for, just do you have the capacity to understand enough of this? That would fix the system. But good luck with that one.
That's another great one where you have to be aware of the issue. Just like before you vote, just say, what is Bill C11, what's Bill C12, and what's and a multiple choice. And make it very public before at 10 questions, multiple choice that anyone with half a brain could do. And you could just say, hey, everyone, before you vote, you just need to be aware of these three, multiple choice questions, because I think that would, all those people who are saying, who am I voting for, NDP or Liberal, all of those people would be done because they don't even want to take the 10 seconds to really get what the issues are. They just want to, oh, these people are Nazis, the media, Nazi. Okay, I can't vote for the Nazi. Okay, I'm a good person. I'm voting these people.
Well, it could be as simple as, where do you get your media from? CBC. Thank you. Have a great day. Again, you're not in. You're not in. But we have driver's tests at 16. You get a driver's license. I wouldn't be averse to people having to get a voter's license. Like something that says, hey, here's the ID. I'm going to go vote. And also, I kind of passed the general competency test. I think if we did that, we could eliminate the age requirement, because
Yep.
if you pass that test, go ahead, and we actually would have a more intelligent voting base. But by design, they don't want that, because
Yep.
they actually want the controllable lemmings that will absolutely do whatever they want. And if they were part of the process of removing those people from the voting pool, they know what the outcome would be. So there's no chance we'll see anything like that. So what we're left with is a society where we really have the independents and centrists who are making the decision, because that's really where the swing voting and the deciding of the voting happens, or the intelligent voting happens. It's the people that can sit down, look at them, and say, okay, well, Pierre isn't wonderful, but here are the things I do like, or whatever, and then make an educated vote. But we're never going to see that. I think from the beginning of time, there's been a huge push against that particular thing, because it eliminated women at one time. It eliminated people that didn't own land at another time. So good luck trying to bring that back in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
But I think that would solve it. If everybody had to have know the issues and then make an educated decision, I think the voting would absolutely go a different way.
And it shouldn't. You know, everyone says just get out and vote, just go vote, just do it. Yeah, no, that's definitely not. It should be get educated, or get if you don't know what you're talking about, or if you don't know what you're voting on, don't vote. Mm-hmm. Just vote if you know the issues. Vote if you are care and are passionate and know what's going on, then vote. But if you're just voting because it's your democratic duty to just simply cast a ballot, then that's bad.
Yeah. And we got a comment here from Ellen. Didn't you used to have to answer questions to win a prize in Canada? We used to, yeah, we even have, like, you have to answer math, do this test right before you can win that scratch off thing. We even had competency tests on raffles. You couldn't be the prize winner if you couldn't add 1 + 8 divided by 2. We used to do that, but we can't do anything on the voting.
No, that's a very good point. Exactly. Yeah. And even what if the questions about Canada's history? You know, what year was Canada founded, and something, you know, again, things that can be not politicized, just general.
Oh, good luck with that last part, not politicized, because even you got Biden, who says people of color are struggling because they don't have lawyers or accountants, which is a baloney statement. Or they can't vote because they don't have computers. That's another baloney statement, but that's the kind of thing that they would be saying, especially if you said, well, here's the competency test. You need to know some of the history of Canada. Well, these people that came to Canada, they're fresh, they became citizens, they're going to be excluded. You're racist.
They should know more about Canada than, and oftentimes they
know what? Actually,
you're
right. You're right. My wife took the test. Okay, she's from Nigeria. She immigrated. She did the test. Most Canadians would fail that test.
Yes. Oh, I agree. I agree. Yeah, that's the perverse thing about it, for sure.
Yeah, we require more education out of them before they become Canadians, and we don't use that education either. But here we are. Well, I certainly overstepped the time allotment you gave me. So if you like, you can stick around. But
I do have to go.
I'll let you have the final say, and let people know what you're up to. Follow you on Twitter. Hang out with you. What do you want them to do?
Yeah, just follow me on Twitter, and Twitter's fun. I like Twitter, and just go PPC, go Max.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting some heat right now. I can see my Twitter still well over 20 plus because of that. What people are accusing me of supporting the PPC with, but my tweet wasn't my declaration of supporting the PPC. Those were my observations about this whole PPC, CPC, splitting votes, you're going to make Trudeau win argument. Did you want to maybe comment on that before you leave? Did you read that tweet?
Yeah. I thought that was a great tweet, and I totally agree. The PPC helps the CPC. We open the Overton window. We extend that Overton window. We can act like the NDP to the Liberals, where look at Pierre. Pierre's copied quite a few things from our platform. So. Because even the inflation, the cost of living, you could have read our platform back when the election was going on, and we were saying all those things. We weren't getting the media that he's getting, just like you said. Right. But I just view us as two completely different parties. I voted, and I think I told you on the last live stream that in 2019 I voted Conservative to get Trudeau out, and look what happened. it's going to be tough to get him out, but that's why we need to build a foundation and something with staying power and the right morals. And we just, I think if you keep going conservative, they just want to concede everything and get these tiny wins. In my opinion, that's not how you negotiate. You don't go in saying, oh, can I just have this crumb? You say, no, I want this. And then you meet somewhere in the middle. Right. Whereas they seem to be always conceding the middle ground on every issue, like carbon neutral or on the pro-life. We opened that debate back up, the pro-life movement. Yeah. And that has opened a lot of people's eyes to how extreme the lack of abortion laws we have in Canada. You can do gender selective abortion in Canada. And people don't realize that. And that should be a debate. But the conservatives would say, oh, that's a losing debate, or we don't even want to touch abortion, when that is a easily winnable thing. With you poll 95% of Canadians and say, should you have sex selective abortion? And they would say, no, that's wrong. So I think the PPC is helping the CPC doing the heavy lifting.
It's kind of trying to remind them where they came from, because they left. In fact, we're entering the conservative building and it's empty. There's a bunch of empty desks. We walked in because they left a while ago. And yeah, you're right. Even when they push back on subjects like abortion and say, let's not talk about it or do anything about it, that is not a conservative position. That's never been a conservative position. That is the compromising, tolerant conservatives again. And unfortunately, they are a good chunk. They are a good chunk. Yeah. And they don't really want democracy, because democracy is voting for the best for your community. And if that is a PPC or independent, why are you trying to stop that? You just have some dude that's young right out of Pol Sci, and you threw him in there and let's just vote for him. What has he done? Who is he? Max at least has been in there and he stood up against two machines. Let's see what he can do.
If you don't agree with what Max is doing, well, the conservatives.
So what do you agree with?
In my riding, I was really excited because up until the very last day, there was no conservative candidate. And then they parachuted a secretary in from the party who worked for one of the constituents in Parliament. And they just parachuted her in. She wasn't from there. And she didn't even campaign. She didn't show up to any of the debates. And she still got 20,000 votes because people just, again, they've shut their brain off. And me, I'm at the debates. I'm working for you. I door knocked thousands and thousands of houses. I took 2 months off work. I raised all my own funds. So that's where I'm saying we need to get more into the frame of mind of like getting independents and candidates. People have to start considering independence. They have to look at the candidates, because yes, you could love the party, but if your candidate didn't even campaign and didn't even go to debates, look at Max. Look at how hard he's working in Manitoba. It's not like he's throwing his hat in the ring and saying, look, I'm campaigning on what my whole history of how hard I've worked and what I've done. He's in the riding, going door to door. He's having events all the time. So the one thing you can't say, he works his butt off. Like I've never seen someone work as hard as him in this capacity. And his schedule, I couldn't even believe his schedule for the election.
It's tight. Yeah. And even when he had to drive coast to coast, he was driving coast to coast.
One more thing I'll touch on is the grifting. When people say he's a grifter, he's in it for the money. There was a rally in Waterloo and it was 35 degrees out, like scorching. And it was downtown at the square. So just black pavement and scorching heat. And it was 3 or 4 hours. And he showed up in a rented Toyota Corolla and was with everyone the whole time. And then hung out afterwards with everyone. And so there's no way he's doing this for the money, or that there's a lot easier ways to make money. And he's renting a Toyota Corolla. He's not, and he's putting the work in.
Well, that's an interesting comment. Like, what money? It's $1,000 a day if you are the MP. What money? He's not going to become a millionaire becoming an MP.
Well, and okay, then let's say he's taking all the donations and spending them. It's like, well, no.
So fraud and theft. You really think he's doing that?
Yeah, and you would see him living a different lifestyle. I think you wouldn't see him working as hard. He would be living off. Why would you do it for the money, but not spend the money and not live that lifestyle. And yeah.
Well, those are people that don't know how the Elections Canada finances work. That's all open. Good luck trying to do that. That would be one of the dumbest things to do. And look, if you wanted to know if it's true, you can look it up. The documents are there. So,
and the Conservatives, I mean, they fundraise too. They fundraise more than we do. They make
well. That's what the article for Against Max was all about, which was so bad because that's not democracy. The CBC wrote an article about Max only raising 300,000 while the Conservatives have 8.3 million. Why is that the vote? They raise more money, therefore we should support them. I thought that was incredibly undemocratic for the CBC to say.
That's another thing. We have great election laws in terms of how much money you can fundraise. I would love to see that scaled back where everyone can donate from $1,650, but to $100 max. Everyone can just donate $100, and you essentially can pay for a lawn sign with that and some advertisement. And that's how, because when it just becomes a fundraising issue, you get these. You have Trudeau going to mansions in Markham and meeting with strange people.
But is that what the media is trying to tell us? The bigger bank wins? Are they really trying to program you that way?
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's what that article said. Don't vote for Max. He can only raise 300,000. Look, 8.3 million for the Conservatives. Obviously, they're onto something. That's what the article was.
Yeah,
like, really? Why to have an election then? Let's see what their fundraiser and then just put the crown on them when they're done. Like, what are you talking about? That's not democracy, CBC. You know it. It's just that's all you had. You didn't have anything else to attack him with, because Max came out about the transgender issue. He came out strong against it. They're not going to bring that up because there is support for that.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. I'm behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, I know you're way gone. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really great, and really loved the conversation.
Well, thank you. And are we going to see you in Manitoba, or are you going to stay in Ontario? You're not going down for June 19th, right?
I'm stuck here all summer. So the summers are busy season. So
okay. Well, watch my stream.
Sorry?
I'll be there. I'll be there. So I'll be there. You can watch the stream. You'll get the excitement through the stream then.
Amazing. Okay. Yeah.
And maybe I can pull you in to have some chats. Maybe during that, I'll pull you in and we'll have some chats then.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. You take care, Ian. And thank you very much for giving me 50% more time than you had. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Take care, Ian.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Well, there you go. There's Ian. So there wasn't a reason why he left the party. It just put his family first. I get it. That's why I kind of took a bit of a simpatico for the winter, because he's not wrong. We have to pay for this ourselves. And I'm independent. There isn't a party. So yeah, we have to self-fund. We have to give up work time to do this. My wife knows she has to pick up the slack. There's quite the commitment and investment as a volunteer in the political scape. And yeah, there's a chance you don't win. And yeah, there's a chance that you'll never see that money again. And that's fine, because this is not about money. This is not about how much of my bank account's affected. It's about whether or not I can feel confident and comfortable that my children are living in a Canada that doesn't see them as an other that needs to be dealt with. Regardless what side of the spectrum of ideological spectrum you are, nobody wants a world where their children are going to be othered and have such a challenge. So that's priceless to me. I will do anything for my kids, and that includes that. So I was really impressed. And he's not wrong. Liberty Village, that is definitely a liberal area. And it's so sad to hear how it deteriorated. My first job in the GTA was in Liberty Village. So this is just the south of downtown Toronto, along King Street down to Bathurst. So it's a nice area. And when I was there, it was converted factories into tech, like lots of tech. So it was like a little Silicon Valley in that area. Lots of culture. There was a lot of stuff going on. Sad to hear that it deteriorated to the point where there's drug activity everywhere. You certainly can't go there with your family. And if you have to work there, you're probably trying to get to your building quickly and then get away from the building quickly. And that's kind of the way you live. When I was there, we would go around for lunch, go check out the cafes, hang around with coworkers. It was a nice place. So sad to hear that it deteriorated that way. But that does happen when policies that allow people to kind of just do whatever they want. And this is a human nature. Human nature will be to do whatever they want, whether it's good for them or not. And that's sad to hear. But a real brave man, I'm sure he looked at the numbers, and I'm sure he fully understood that this would be tough. It would be really tough. But he still did it. And that was impressive. So, Ian, thank you very much. If you're checking us out, if your boss didn't come down on you too hard for being late, thank you very much for being here. Cheers, Ian. Yeah, thank you, Clay. Now, I do have some time to go ahead and hit the chats. Thank you for those notes, Ali. And let's see if I can do a hands-free chat, because what we can do, because we do have some time here, is we can kind of go to the beginning of the chat and catch up on what you guys had to say. But also go ahead and throw some questions in here about my weekend. If you kind of noticed, after Friday, PPC got me thinking, and what it did, what happened with my Friday episode, which kind of dominoed the rest of my weekend, is one of my supporters who's been with me from like day one. Like day one, I announced I'm independent, and one of the first few follows I got on Twitter was this particular person, and then after the Friday show, I reached out to the person and said, "Hey, how are things?" And actually, what was going on is they were telling me I should be doing clips. I should release clips of my show, and they're not wrong. It's just a lot of work, and we got into that. But so I said, "Hey, look, I'm starting to do clips now." And they said, "You're very smart. You're a very good person. You're doing the right things. Too bad you are a PPC supporter." Like, oh, first. That hurt because I'm not a PPC supporter. I'm looking at them. I'm checking them out. I think they have a lot of good things to say. If you put one of these to my head and said, pick a party, it would be PPC, but that doesn't mean I'm a supporter. And second, it was like, oh, if I was a supporter, why does that change anything about what you think about me and what my mission is? Because it wouldn't change me if I joined a PPC party as an independent candidate. I want to highlight independent candidate, because the only way to join the PPC as an independent candidate is they allow independent candidates. But in any other case, if I was to join, I'm still me. And I will stand up to the party. I'll stand up to the parliament. I'll stand up to all the other parties too. But if I put a PPC hat on, I lose their support, just simply for that reason. And that's what kind of got me into, well, let me respond, because I want them to understand a little bit better that you shouldn't be afraid of the PPC. The PPC is a conservative-based party that's attracting people from across the spectrum. It's actually attracting people that are typically left-leaning to conservatism, especially parents. There is a way, way larger group of left-leaning parents who are going to the PPC party than any other party. Why? Well, they love their children, and some of the stuff that's coming out of even their own side, they don't subscribe to at all. We looked at a poll, and it was well over 90%. So that includes a lot of lefties that said, do you like this stuff in the school? So no, the parents don't. So there's a large chunk of parents that are leaving the left and going to PPC. They're not going to CPC. Why? Because there's a large group of never CPCs. No matter what, I can't vote for that party. I hated them for too long. They did something in the past. Whatever. There's some, there's like Trump derangement syndrome. There's also conservative party derangement syndrome. For no particular reason, they just hate it. So that would be the category of never CPCs. Well, then what are you worried about? If they're never CPC, what are you worried about? They're not coming to you. It's not a split vote. You're not losing a vote. They were never coming to you. In fact, they're always going to make sure they vote against you. So why wouldn't you want that vote in a conservative pot? PPC is conservative. They are conservative. And they're more conservative than the Conservative Party. So that's a good thing. If we're attracting people from the left, their ideology, and they're coming over to the conservative ideology, which is protect the family, protect the children, multi-generational, leave something for the next generation, do your best to make that next generation even better than your generation. Those are all conservative principles there. That's not a bad thing, right? So this whole thing from the CPC supporters, and a lot of them did hit me up, and a lot of them weren't happy with what I had to say. and I even lost maybe a little bit of support from someone who was dear to me. That's not going to stop me and cause me to pander or kowtow because I'm losing a little bit of support there. In fact, it's causing me to be a little bit more resolute in my decisions, because if that is scaring you, then it's definitely something we need to work on. So it's good to see, and the numbers are there. It's mostly NDP and not previous voters or non-voters. That's where the PPC is getting most of their support. I think that's a good thing. If you end up with a choice in Western Canada, where it's normally conservative, if you end up with the choice between two conservatives to choose from, because one of them attracted a lot of people from the left and the other one is just the traditional Conservative Party, what are you afraid of? Like, what are you actually afraid of if you are conservative and you lose that seat to Max? What are you afraid of? What's his one vote going to do to you? Nothing, except possibly show you the PPC party and Max specifically is not doing a bad job, and they actually have the right message and they're doing the right pushes. I also saw a lot of people saying things like Max is a flip-flopper, but they won't tell me what issue. What issue did he flip-flop on? Because from what I see, from the very beginning of COVID and other things, he's took a stand and then suffered. He wasn't able to fly. He wasn't able to go to a debate. There's a whole bunch of things that he wasn't able to do because he didn't vaccinate. He didn't flip-flop. He didn't wear a mask just for the sake of wearing a mask to go on a stage and then take it off. So I'm not actually sure what issue. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he did. What issue was it? It's talking points. Vote splitting, flip-flop. These are the things they say a lot about Max. They're just simply not true. So I got some good traction on that. And what I was happy about is to see how much support there truly is for PPC. So even though the media is pushing hard and the other parties are pushing hard, their support is growing. It absolutely is growing. One of the things I got from a lefty was, they only have 5% support. They can never win. And then when I responded to him, I said, well, actually, in Portage Lisgar, they had 23% in the last election. In my riding, it was 18% in the last election. You're not looking at where they actually have support if you think it's only 5% of Canadians coast to coast. That was the end of that conversation, because it's true. He may have 0% all over the GTA, but he has double digits and getting to 20, 25% out west. So, no, there is an appetite for it. There's an appetite for it in the West. And it does look like, because the Conservative Party is so scared, it does look like he has a lot more support than the media is absolutely letting you on, because there's no way Pierre is flying to Manitoba to go door knocking and support this unknown candidate if he was worried. He wasn't worried. He is very worried. And another thing I wanted to say to some people that push me back on particularly this particular riding, it's not going red. Okay, it's not like Max and this Conservative guy is going to sit and fight it out and then red's going to squeak in with a victory. That ain't happening. They're not even supporting the Liberal there. You don't see Justin or any of his minions going over there to help, because they know it's going to stay blue or purple. It's not going Liberal. So even the people in Manitoba that say, if you don't vote Conservative, Justin's going to get this one, you're dead wrong. Even the Liberal Party don't believe that. They don't believe it themselves. So yeah, good luck with that one. And again, I'm independent, but I am rooting for the guy who has the best platform and the best messaging. And it happens to be Maxime on this one. So, you know, is that not a democratic decision on my part to look at the candidate and the platform and the issues and their position and then make a choice? I'm not painting by color here, folks. And I don't encourage you to do that either. If you're smart enough to be a voter, you should be smart enough to actually look at the candidate and the issues and stop picking color. My encouragement to people like Ian and others who understand that we have to change a lot of minds is to have patience, that education is the way to go. So you got to talk to them. You got to communicate with them, and you got to meet with them. And maybe I'm just silver lining this. Maybe that's why Danielle reached out to the Pride group this year. Maybe that's why she has provided that support on that front, is to keep those doors open. If she is, I kind of get it, but I don't think you're going to be successful, because I don't think that group is there to negotiate and compromise, full stop. In fact, what they will do is they will leverage any crack in the door that you give them, and it won't be the way you thought they would. So Danielle maybe will be learning a big lesson here, but yeah, I don't think she should have done it. I think she should have been more like Doug Ford on this and just said, look, no comment. Maybe like that. Don't go to the parades. But look, political life is very difficult. There's a lot of stuff we'll never know that happens behind the scenes. And if you don't like it, this is why we need to change. This is why we need to get behind independent candidates, all levels. You need to get new people in your school boards. You need to get new people into your municipal council. You need to get more people in your regional council, provincial, federal. And that's it. That's all we got to do. But Ian had some good points there. It's expensive. It's tough. It takes away from the family. All true. All true. Takes away from your work. All true. But isn't Canada worth it? I think so. I totally think so. Okay, folks, we got 14 minutes left. And what I want to kind of do is talk to you about getting my message out more. Okay. I don't ask you guys for a lot, but I'm going to ask you for something here. Share my clips, share my videos. I'm starting to do clips now. We spent way more work than I wish I had to this weekend just to get us into the position of making clips for you and getting them out there. So if you find a part of the video that's interesting and you think people should see it, well, in YouTube and maybe even Rumble and others, you can make your own clips. Okay, so you can go ahead and just make a clip. And if you do that, share, of course, share with us. And we may even make that in a clip that we push to our other platforms as well. So please do your best to do some sharing. Let's make this kind of like, well, it's not Fight Club. It's the opposite of Fight Club. So do talk about Yellowhead Yacht Club. Did you hear what I said there? Yellowhead Yacht Club. Yep. We've renamed the show. Starting this week, I'm going to be transitioning from, that's such a weird word to use, right? But I'm using it in the correct way. I'm transitioning from Good Morning with Jason to Yellowhead Yacht Club. Yellowhead Yacht Club is the same show, but I needed to change the name because we're also going to be doing evening and morning. So, yeah, thank you, Patch. So evening and morning. So, yeah, it's going to be Yellowhead Yacht Club in the morning, Yellowhead Yacht Club in the evening, one name. But what I also wanted to do with this is get it out there. Okay, so we want more people to show up. So what I did was we're now on more platforms. Okay, so YouTube, good chunk of you on YouTube, Facebook, same thing, Twitter, Rumble, and LinkedIn. Those were the first 5. We've now added Twitch and Odyssey. So those are now streaming live, and we're working on Getter. So Getter is another platform where there's quite a few people there, and they do streaming. So I'm working with them too. So I'm adding platforms, and I'm doing my best to spread the reach. And now I'm going to ask all of you to do help me out as well. Okay, so go ahead and do a share. Send it to the person that hates conservatives. Send it to the person that loves conservatives. Send it to the person that doesn't know what they do, what they like. All of this is for everybody. Because the messaging here is we got to find ways to work together, unify, not divide. If they want division, we want unification. If they want children to be sexualized, we want children to grow up innocent. If they want to confuse a whole bunch of adults and persuade them into hurting themselves by chopping and doing other things, we want to remind them that you're perfect the way you are, and there's other ways to be happy. You don't need to put on an identity. You don't need to do a surgery. You don't need to take a chemical. There's a lot of ways to be happy with yourself. One of the first things you do is you accept yourself. God made you. If you believe in that, God made you in his image, therefore you're perfect. If you don't believe in that, we were all born with nothing but good opportunity, and it's our job to make sure that we fill ourselves up with our biggest potential. And if that means Well, it won't mean, like, if you are miserable and upset and don't like who you are, you're definitely going to inhibit your potential. So I would like to see a lot more of that happening. Mental health, as we spoke about with Ian, lots of you certainly gave comments about that. It would be good if we could find a path forward on that one, because I am concerned it's being leveraged to not our benefit. We're being told that we are mentally unhealthy. We're being told that we don't know who we are. We're being told that the outcome for people in that situation is life-ending care. Like, we're being told this. I don't believe it. I don't believe it for a second. I don't believe that we can't work on this in our communities and in our families. I don't believe that we have to surrender mental health to the federal government. I don't believe any of that. And I think anything that we do to help each other is really the way to go. That's what the Yellowhead Yacht Club is. We can sit and chat. We can talk about things that are bothering us. I'm not here with hate, but I'm certainly here with concern, frustration, and from time to time, a little bit of anger, because it angers me to hear vulnerable people being abused. And that would include Pastor Adam when he was trying to give birth with his wife, and they had those troubles. That kind of thing angers me, but certainly not hate. Because even Trudeau, and some of you may not like what I have to say here, Trudeau's a human. I would not want to have walked in his shoes. I would not want to have had to have grown up in his house, because it would have been a difficult life, right? The son of a prime minister, expectations from you, and at a very early age, the WEF got their hooks into him. He was part of the Young Global Leaders program. So it'd be difficult to live the life of, well, big shoes from your father, right? Because each generation wants to try and surpass the previous generation. So in his case, his previous generation had really big shoes. And then to have a bunch of people surrounding you where they're yesing everything you do. And then to have a bunch of people around you that are trying to molding you into something. That would have been a very difficult way to grow up. Let's be honest. I wouldn't want to. I would want to have enjoyed my life, enjoyed my teens, enjoyed my early 20s and stuff. So I have empathy for where he came from. Now, with all that said, I certainly don't agree with his decision making, his logic, his reason, how he comes up to his decisions. I don't respect it. I certainly think he takes way too much influence from the outside. I certainly think he takes way too much influence from outside of Canada. So, I can be empathetic for his upbringing and him as a human, but that doesn't mean I support him or I agree with anything he does. So with that said, I want you to just kind of remember, even Trudeau is a human, and I don't think many of us would have enjoyed his upbringing, because if that meant, a private life and you're going to have to go do this job for a while and you're going to have a whole bunch of people dislike you. And that's not the life that children grow up to want. So on the humanitarian front, okay, he's a human. He's going to have mental health issues too. But on the political front, he's a big boy. So he should be able to take the criticisms, and he should be able to understand that Canada will have a voice, whether you like it or not. And Canada should not be ignored, whether you like it or not. And I think he's going to find out over the next couple of years just how loud Canada can get. And is Maxime really going to be somebody that can give us another chunk of hope if he wins? I'm thinking, because I'm doing the math, I'm thinking that if he can get in, that's going to be almost as big as a trucker convoy in revigorating people to remember who they are, because, well, he can win. So if he can get in and win, even with all that vitriol from the media, maybe we have a chance. Maybe this populist movement has some teeth. Maybe there is something here. I'd like to see Canada give him a shot, because what do we have to lose on this one? You're not changing who the prime minister. The outcome of this by-election doesn't change a darn thing. So if we're going to test out a second Conservative Party, which is just basically what we're doing here, this is the time to do it. And if he sucks and he's no good, no real harm done, he'll be gone in the next election. But if he doesn't suck, and he does do the things that he claims he can do when he gets in there, which is to really, really shake it up, then I am in. I'm into supporting that plan. If that means there's 5% more accountability in the house, that's great for me, because it's a great start. So let's see where that goes. Let me know in the chat. You don't have to tell me if you support Max, and nor does it matter. The question I have for you is, would a Max win rock the boat? Would a Max win change anything? And frankly, would a Max win cause the CPC to kind of shift some of their thinking? Because they may decide, wait a minute, there's far more support than we thought. Canada is conservative. There's a large push for it. And maybe that causes the CPC to head closer to their roots, just out of the fear of survival. Like if they don't, maybe Max goes in and cleans up where they didn't. So a Max win may ruffle a lot of feathers and may rock the boat, and it may even scare the CPC. I don't have a problem with any of those, because if that causes the CPC to kind of wake up and get back to business, that's a good thing. And then if they don't, well, this is a democracy. Are we supposed to vote for the best option? So if they aren't the best option, welcome to democracy. But if they keep having their messaging that that isn't democratic, I want you to kind of take that as a flag that they don't believe in democracy. Just go put it out there. If they're telling you to vote for one of the two and that's it, do they believe in voting for the best person? Anyways, we'll see. Brenda seems to think that maybe this could open a door. Maybe this could ruffle some feathers. And there's also some people that think a Max loss will be very devastating to the party. Okay, so putting it out there too, like this. Me and Ian didn't think it would hurt that bad. Like he thought that he can kind of get up from it, but this will be a tough one. If Max loses to basically a nobody, if he can't get conservative Manitoba rural behind him, it's going to be tough everywhere. So, I'm not saying the party would fold, but this would be a setback. I think it would be a setback. And it would be a major setback if he loses in Manitoba and decides to take a run in Calgary and not let Kelly Lorenz take the shot there, because I believe Kelly's a wonderful candidate for Calgary. I think he can speak Calgary, he can speak Alberta, and he can definitely do a good job there. But we'll see. Okay, June 19th is not too far from now, and we'll be heading out there to bring you the coverage. Of course, I'm going to be trying to get to the CPC's camp as well to interview them. That's a very difficult road, but I'll do my best, because my goal is to go and see them all. I want to report them all. So I hope you're looking forward to that. Now, tomorrow, let me check who tomorrow is. Joe Rampart. So if you're in Edmonton, if you're on the radio, if you're on the internet, Joe Rampart is a radio commentator, political guy. And folks, this was completely by accident. I didn't know this when I booked him, but he is a PPC supporter. He, I believe, is running. I'm not sure, because he has a Twitter handle that makes it look like he's supporting. So I may ask him about that. I didn't book him because he was PPC. I booked him because he's a political commentator on Alberta issues, and we just had an election, and we're going to go deep into that with him. But he just so happens to be a PPC supporter. They are everywhere, and finding PPC supporters are everywhere. So that'll be Joe tomorrow. And today, or this week, is going to be all morning shows, but next week we're going to be moving to the evening with replays in the morning. And then on Wednesday, I'm looking forward to that one. That's our Coast to Coast Canadians. So we'll be chatting with a lot of Canadians. And on Thursday, we have Donald Best, a police officer who was falsely accused, and he had to fight that challenge. So he has a very, very good story about the legal system turning on itself. And then on Friday, we have Lee Vossen, the president and founder of Students Against Mandates, a student from Manitoba. So one of the younger guests we have on the show. She is so impressive. We interviewed her last year, and she has come a long way since then too. The fact that the student program and student protest advocacy group is still alive is very impressive. They don't usually last that long. So we'll hear from her on how she did that. And Ellen is very happy to hear from Joe. So that's tomorrow, Ellen. You're going to hear from Joe. And he's really fun to listen to. Just the way he talks and the way he explains and the way he tells stories. It's fun. So we'll have him tomorrow. Well, folks, I hope you liked the show. I hope the stream was good. We have a new studio software. We're back to StreamYard. And from my side, it was a pretty normal show. So thank you all very much. Let's get myself ready for the outro. So as you all know, I love you all. Thank you for being here. And as always, God bless.